Stay a little. That's all right.
This is a nice setup.
Boy, that's a warm day, 21st of October. Holy cow! Yeah. Oh,
No.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, it's a nice drive.
It's on. I'm gonna change something real quick just to sort of test it.
It is locked. Is that when you go out? That's okay. Puppy, it's very hot. I know that. But it is now. Dan did a good job. Dan did a good job.
That's good?
Yep.
Okay.
There you go.
So, who won or lost the coin toss? Who's coming up front? Mary. That's all we need. Just you guys are partner in this. I just think you need to have the representative. And you guys, patient all weekend long. You deserve to have no say. You ready?
Yep.
So.
How are you? One decaf.
I'm here to help in any way.
Sorry? Test. How many of you if I don't know 5, 19, 10, 11, 15? Oh, it's the wrong group, isn't it? I'm sorry. It helps wake people up so when I do that. So, most of you know I'm State Representative Dan Swanson, and we just are so thankful you all could come out today. This is a very serious topic. We're going to talk, we've referred to it as scams, but it's actually robbery. People are reaching into your pockets and stealing, and that's not right. And we hope to give you some tips. Heather Calcara is here from the Attorney General's office in Springfield, and she's going to put together a great show here for us today. But I also want to let, this is a 3 co-sponsored event. I was honored to be sponsored or be a co-sponsor with Sandburg College and also with F&M Bank. I would like to give them just a minute to say hi too. So, Seamus.
Thank you so much, Representative Swanson. I'm Seamus Riley, President of Cross Sandburg College, and so we're very happy to partner with Representative Swanson and Heather from the state to help educate, it's our job, everybody about fraud and the ways in which you can prevent it from happening to you or what you do if it does happen to you. So thanks so much for coming to ask us to be part of this. Happy to do it. And then the most important sponsor is right next to me. I'm going to hand the microphone to Ronnie because she brought us goodies, right?
I just echo those same comments. F&M Bank is always happy to support any of these types of events because, as you know, as a bank, we see fraud every single day. And you might think it won't ever happen to you, but don't ever let your guard down because it does. It happens to people that you would never dream. So we also invite anybody at any time to ever ask us any questions that you may have. We try to do as much public education as possible about those types of things as well. So we can't stress the importance of it enough. So if you ever suspect something, want just more information on anything, don't hesitate to reach out to us, okay? Thank you all for being here today and enjoy the treats. Even if you've already got one, please come back for more.
Thank you. And just some housekeeping. Restrooms are right outside the door to your left, men's and women's. And feel free if you need to get a cup of coffee or another water or baked good. They spend all weekend making all these nice sweets back here. And the packaging on them was tremendous too. Here, and I know you didn't come here to hear us talk, so I'm going to turn it over to Heather. As I said, Heather Calcara drove all the way from Springfield today because she's as passionate about this as we are. So thank you, Heather.
Thank you so much. Again, my name's Heather. I do outreach for the Illinois Attorney General's office. I'm going to give you a little background on me. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Give you a little background on me, talk about the office, talk about common scams, talk about identity theft, and then how our office can help if you or somebody that you know becomes a victim. Background on me, I worked at the office for 6 years. I did 2 years in consumer fraud, 2 years in identity theft, and I've spent the past 2 years going out and about talking to folks. The Attorney General, just out of curiosity, anybody know who he is? His name's Kwame Raoul. He was reelected for his second term in the 2022 election. He's got some main responsibilities. He litigates, he's an attorney, but sometimes people get the state's attorney's office and the attorney general's office confused. The state's attorney's office usually handles things on an individual basis and it's criminal in matter, where the attorney general represents the state of Illinois as a whole. He legislates, so he goes to the General Assembly, makes sure that when bills and laws get passed, that they're going to benefit Illinois citizens. And then he's a big advocator. Our office started an online safe, online smart program for kids, so that way when they go online, they know what to look for. And then it also helps educate their parents, so that way they know what their kids are looking at. We've got 8 offices throughout the state, 2 main offices, one's in Chicago, the other's in Springfield. Like Dan said, I came up and over from Springfield. But I believe your guys' closest office might be, it's either Chicago or Urbana, but if you wanted to physically go in and talk to somebody, you can. There's 40 different bureaus within our office. They range anywhere from charitable trusts, disability rights. We are the only Attorney General's office in the United States that has a military veterans rights bureau. So that's something we're kind of proud of. And then you've got consumer protection, which unfortunately, that's our most utilized bureau. There's, just out of curiosity, does anybody still have a landline? I know they're still out there. Okay. For those of you with landlines, you either have caller ID or an answering machine. Okay. The rest of you with cell phones, is the voicemail set up on your cell phone? Best and cheapest secretary you will ever have. You're going to hear me say a lot. Let it go to your voicemail and go to the source. One of the reasons my big push is let things go to voicemail. With some of these scams, all it takes is for somebody to say hello. That's all they need. They know if they're talking to a male or a female, they'll tailor the scam to that person. So you answer the phone, the person on the other end says, Grandpa. And unfortunately, it's a lot of people's gut reaction to just say that grandchild's name. And we call it the grandparent scam. So the person on the other end says, Michael? Okay, it's me, Michael, yeah. I don't sound like myself because I was in a car accident and I broke my nose. I'm in jail. I'm being charged with vehicular manslaughter because I hit a pregnant lady and she miscarried. I need help. Don't tell mom or dad. These scammers are bullies, they're manipulative, and they will try and isolate you. I can't stress enough. If you get a call from your grandchild, call your grandchild, hang up and call your grandchild. There are all kinds of imposter scams out there. You may get a phone call from local law enforcement, FBI, state police, whatever they think is gonna work that day. Your social security number has been associated with bank fraud, money laundering. If that doesn't work, we found a car in Texas that's got blood and drugs in it, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble and go to jail. For one, I work closely with law enforcement, and they're not gonna give you a heads up that you're gonna go to jail. They're gonna show up on your doorstep like they do in all the TV shows. But some of the angle to that scam is they might tell you, I've got the last four of your social to prove that you're involved in that scam, and it's XYZ. And it might actually be the last four digits of your social security number, but I need you to verify the rest. If somebody calls you, they should have the information that they need to verify who you are. That's just one little tip. But there's all kinds of other scams out there. Now, I have an uncle, bless his heart, he has nothing better to do with his day than answer the phone. And he'll openly tell me, Heather, don't worry. When they tell me my computer's been compromised, tell them I don't have a computer. Well, right there, you just told them not to call you back with any text scams. Instead, they're gonna call you back and tell you you won the Publishers Clearinghouse. So I stress, they can't get your money and they can't get any information if you're not talking to them. There are, when it comes to imposter scams, if you're on social media, you may get a message from someone that looks like family, looks like a friend, and they start talking to you about stuff that they might not normally talk to you about. I'm paraphrasing, but hey, I got this really cool government grant. You know, if you're after extra money, call this person, and it's the number for a scammer. If you get a weird message from someone and it's not something that they would normally talk to you about, or if you're looking at the message and it kind of looks a little like broken English, or if there's a lot of spelling errors, call that family member or call that friend, because there's a bogus profile out there on social media that needs to be taken down. And that way too, you're going to the source. You're calling your grandchild, you're calling your friend. There are all kinds of different, I mean, I could go on forever with the scams. There are, my brain just stopped, I apologize. We call them storm chasers. That if, a year ago, when Springfield, we had a pretty gnarly storm come through, and all of a sudden I noticed on our street, people were knocking on people's doors, saying, hey, I noticed you had some roof damage. I was working on your neighbor's house across the block, and I can fix that for you for cash. That way, you don't have to go through your insurance, and your premiums won't go up. I can't stress enough, if someone shows up on your doorstep, there is nothing wrong with you can talk to that person through the door. You don't have to open your door for that person. And if somebody is going door to door, nothing wrong with saying, hey, just so you know, I called local law enforcement, they're gonna come look at your permit. Because a lot of small towns, you have to have a permit to go door to door to solicit for things. So, just so you know, because you never know that person on the other side of the door, what their actual intentions are. So that way, you're not being rude, because you can tell them, I'd be more than happy to talk to you after law enforcement looks at your permit. Odds are they're probably gonna go away. Or if anything, they can wait and talk to law enforcement. But either way, that way you know that you're safe. Now, there are all kinds of gift card scams. I was out to supper with my husband, and a gentleman overheard what I did for a living, and he handed me a Post-it, and it was for a local cable company. And he was being told that they had partnered with major retailers, and he could get 50% off of his bill if he went and purchased gift cards. And to prove that he had purchased the gift cards, he had to read the numbers on the back. Now, he had the wherewithal to know not to do that, but he wanted me to share this story. And the reason in sharing the story is in the 6 years that I've worked for the Attorney General's office, I've yet to hear of anybody that's gotten their money back from buying a gift card. A lot of times the banks will get pushed back because you knowingly and willingly went in and purchased those gift cards. And a lot of times the merchants have warning labels no bigger than my name tag that will tell you if this is for a fraudulent purpose, this is your warning. So if you are on the phone with someone and they are pressuring you for a gift card, just hang up. It's a big red flag. No legitimate business, no federal agency, no state agency will ever ask you for a gift card in lieu of anything. I know sometimes that scam can come in the direction of you won the Publishers Clearinghouse prize, not the big one, but the second place prize. And if you want to cut the taxes in half, you can go out and get gift cards. For one, if you come into an exorbitant amount of money, the Department of Revenue does not want a gift card, and they'll know where to find you. So just know that if you're talking to somebody and it doesn't feel quite right, or if you're thinking this is a scam, just hang up. My mom, 84 years old, and I asked her, I heard her talking on the phone. And when she got done, I said, Mom, who are you talking to? And she said, oh, it's just a scammer. And I said, Mom, why didn't you just hang up? And she said, I didn't want to be rude. And I said, Mom, if you were at the mall and someone's trying to steal your purse, you would cause a fuss. Same scenario. These people are trying to steal from you folks. So just know you are not being rude. You don't owe them any cordiality. You don't need to be polite. You can just hang up. Are they going to call you back? Yeah, probably. But that's where that secretary can come into play and they can just take messages for you. I gave everybody a blue and green sheet. On the back of that blue sheet, there are all kinds of hotline numbers. If you find a weird phone call, or if you get a some sort of, if you get a weird phone call or you're not too sure quite what somebody's talking about, you can give our office a call and they can verify. Yes, that's a scam. And they'll probably have follow-up questions. Did you give them information? Did you give them money? So that way they can help you get the proper help. But also, feedback from you folks helps us out because there might be scams going on there that we haven't heard of yet. So I encourage, if you have something weird and you just don't feel quite right about it, give our office a call. There are scams. We have a charitable trust department. You may find yourself on the phone with someone and they're claiming they're with local law enforcement, local firefighters, we're reaching out for some sort of money. Our charitable trust department, any nonprofit in the state of Illinois has to register with our office. So if you find yourself on the phone with someone and they're claiming they're with a charity, you can always tell them, send me that information in the mail. 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to get anything. And giving them your name and address, it's public record. So you're not giving them anything that they couldn't Google. But while you're waiting for that information to come to you in the mail, you can give our office a call and you can say, hey, look, is such and such a charity registered with you guys? And they can verify, yes, they are, or no, they're not. But so that way you can do a little bit of research because you guys have all worked really hard for your money. And if you're going to donate it, at least that way you know where it's going. A lot of these nonprofits now, they're holding fundraisers in lieu of phone soliciting. So that way people can actually see where their money is going. So just so you know, you can do your research. It's open enrollment, there's healthcare scams out there. I'm seeing eyes rolling. You may get a phone call, someone's trying to sell you a back brace, a knee brace. Whatever is ailing you, they've got a brace for it. And then a lot of times you'll receive that product and it's either subpar, not what you thought it was, or you get a really hefty bill if it comes along with it. And a lot of time the rationale is it didn't go through your insurance, it didn't go through your doctor, and it didn't get prior authorization. So we have a healthcare bureau, and they can help try and unwind that for you. But I can't stress enough, again, going to the source. If you find yourself on the phone with someone and they are trying to sell you something medically, hang up and call your doctor. See if this is something that you even need. So that way, if it is, you can go through the proper sources so that way it can get to you. We also have, I'm gonna circle back for a little bit. with imposter scams, times are changing and so are the scams. They are texting people, they're emailing folks. I kind of heard some chatter about it before I started talking, but a lot of times in these texts and emails, there are links. And they'll use verbiage to get your attention, like act now, or something is urgent, or this is gonna be canceled or suspended. Or they might even say like, we owe you, just to get your attention. And when you click on these links in these texts and emails, a lot of times there's malware, and it'll get downloaded to whatever device you're using, and then they have access to whatever. So if you online bank, if you have a credit card attached to a website, if you've just recently signed up for insurance, they can see whatever you've been doing. They've changed in logins, passwords, and they're already wreaking havoc. So again, I can't stress enough. I always tell people, stop and think before you click on that link. I know it, and I'm surprised I haven't seen more lately, but like around the holidays that we have a package that couldn't be delivered. Click here. Call your local post office. I mean, even I didn't fall for it, but I definitely questioned it. We consolidated a bunch of debt, and I kept getting something from Netflix saying that your subscription had been suspended. And I kept looking at my husband going, didn't we take care of that? Isn't that? And he was like, Heather, this is what you do. Like, and I was like, I'm just checking. Just checking. But I mean, it does. It makes you stop and think. But that's what I encourage. Stop and think. Don't get caught up or don't get emotionally worked up over whatever this device is telling you. Because it's really easy to hide behind a screen and try and scare somebody into a reaction. And that's exactly what these scammers are trying to do. So I always tell people, stop and think. Call your grandchild. If you get something saying your power's gonna get shut off, pull up the 800 number on your customer service bill. If you've got an issue with your bank, I know sometimes random bank emails go through. Call the 800 number on the back of your card or look at your monthly statement and call the customer service number there. Don't take what these people are giving to you on all these devices at face value. I'm going to pivot just a little bit and talk about identity theft. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have checked your credit reports recently? Oh, that's more hands than what I thought I would see. That is awesome. For those of you that haven't, your credit report is anything that your social security number has ever been associated with. That goes all the way back to your first mortgage, first vehicle, background checks for jobs, ladies, maiden names, married names. All that stuff should be on your credit report. If you haven't checked your credit report, I can't encourage you enough to do so. When I worked in identity theft, there was a young man. He just graduated from college, and unbeknownst to him, he was going to get married and buy a house. And unbeknownst, there was somebody in California with an entire life using his social security number. There was a condo, 2 vehicles, multiple credit cards, and a utility company that took us a year and a half to try and unwind for him. So, and it was the 2 years that I worked there, every 2 months or so I would get a call from him saying, hey, I found something new. So I can't stress enough, if you haven't checked your credit report, to do so. You can get a credit report for free from Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion. If you want to play your cards right, you can get a credit report on a quarterly basis for free. So you would call Equifax 4 months later, call TransUnion 4 months later, call Experian. But I can't stress. You can get a hard copy delivered to you so that way you can look it over. If you see something on there that does not belong to you, circle it, highlight it, and give our office a call. We have an identity theft hotline that was established in 2008. They can help you. They can help talk you through what you need to do. If you think you've disclosed your social security number to somebody, if you were on the phone and they manipulated you into giving it, or unfortunately breaches happen. It seems like every time you turn around, somebody's had a breach, or you're getting a letter, something's happened. If you get a letter from somebody who, AT&T recently had a pretty big breach. I know in Springfield, it happens with hospitals. Sometimes they have a big breach. But you should get a letter, and I'm kind of stressing that. You should get a letter in the mail. And I'm paraphrasing, but it'll tell you, hey, sorry, your information's out there. They may provide credit monitoring, they might not. It's at their discretion. But if you get a letter from someone, or if you feel like you've disclosed your social security number to somebody, I would encourage one of two things. You can either place a fraud alert or a freeze. The fraud alert, it does just that. It alerts you if someone tries to open up a new line of credit using your information. It's free. Keep in mind though, it's temporary. It's only good for a year. So I usually tell people associate it with what if there's a birthday, whatever holiday, so that we can remember, oh, I gotta check on my fraud alert, just to keep that in mind. But they will, I'm paraphrasing, that they will call you, hey, is this you at Victoria's Secret trying to open up a credit card? You need to let them know, yes, it is, or no, it's not. You can also place a freeze. Freeze is a little bit different. You need to, I apologize, a bit of a step back. With the fraud alert, you only have to contact one of the 3 agencies. They will alert the other 2. The freeze is a little different. You have to contact each agency individually. I know 2 of them do, it's like a 2-step authentication where when you call, they'll send a secret number to either an email or a text, and then you have to verify that number. I know one of the agencies, still old school, will send you your PIN number via postcard. But with these postcards, because once you put the freeze in place, it's on there indefinitely. But so put that postcard or put those numbers somewhere safe where you keep your passports, birth certificates, social security cards, which should not be in your purse or wallet. But put them somewhere safe. Because speaking from personal experience, I've lost my PIN numbers and they make you jump through a lot of hoops to prove who you say you are. But like I said, once the freeze is in place, it's in place. I have a freeze on my credit. If I was to go to a big box store, 50% off, open a credit card with us, I would automatically get denied. Now, that being said, we're in the process of buying a house, so I let my lender know when they were going to run my credit, and that way I have the freeze temporarily lifted. So that way, whenever, and I would get emails letting me know, hey, I'm paraphrasing, hey, just so you know, your freeze is lifted. But then I make sure with all 3 that it goes back into place with all 3. Because for that time frame that my lender told me the credit was going to be lifted, I'm technically vulnerable. So it's something I'm going to need to check my credit for that time frame. But again, if you think your information has been exposed, I can't stress enough, at least pull your credit report so that way you make sure what's on there belongs to you. Question? Can I get that question when I'm done? Do you mind? How our office can help, and I won't forget about you, I promise. This is a consumer complaint form. Just out of curiosity, has anybody filled one of these out before? Okay. When I reference our consumer protection division, back in 2023, they saved Illinois consumers over $9 million by people filling these out. Usually, people will fill these out in hopes to avoid small claims court. So what our office does is we kind of act as like an informal mediator or like a middleman, so to speak. But in 2023, the highest amount of complaints we had were home repair and contracting. Number 2 was identity theft. And 3 was auto dealers or auto mechanics. But scams are always in the top 10. But this is also, people fill these out, this is how we get information on what's going on with folks. But what you would do is you put your information here, the business's information here, brief description on the back, or we've had people bring in binders of information. But what we do, and I tell people this, is it's complete transparency. So we're going to send it to the business, and they're going to see it. Because sometimes people are not so nice when they're filling these out. Because a lot of times they feel like they've been wronged, or robbed, or taken advantage of, or whatever the case is. So just so you know, business is going to see it. Whenever you'll get a letter from us letting you know, hey, I'm paraphrasing, hey, we've reached out. Whenever the business responds, we'll send you a copy of that response. If for some reason we don't hear from the business, we'll reach out again. Because things happen, stuff gets lost in the mail, people go to the hospital, who knows? We reach out again. And you'll get another letter letting you know we're reaching out. If for some reason we don't hear from the business, you'll get a letter letting you know that unfortunately our mediations failed, but you have options. So that way, if you do have to take that person to court, you could use the letters from our office as supporting documentation, saying, hey, look, Your Honor, I tried to resolve this outside of court and they weren't willing to work with me. We take complaints on just about anything. I know when I worked in consumer fraud, before I left, there was a gentleman that thought the taxes at the restaurant that he ate at were too high. So we reached out and we found out they were filed accordingly. So is this always 100%? No. Are you going to get the result you might want? Not always, but we try our hardest to get an answer. Questions?
I got an answer.
Oh, okay.
A freeze only applies to new credit card applications.
Correct. So like the Discover, whatever you have in your wallet, that works. I'm also going to follow up with whatever you've got in your wallet, you're going to want to call and let them know, hey, look, I've been a victim of a scam or I've been a victim of identity theft. I'm not looking to take out any like cash advances anytime soon. What's your security protocol? So that way you're going to want to at least touch base with your bank, find out what they've got going on, or let them know, hey, look, I've been a victim, and find out what their security protocol is. Yes.
I've learned through the years, when you file something like that, make a copy for yourself.
Yes.
Because we have so many things going on in our lives, can't remember.
Yes. If you couldn't hear him, he said that if something like this does happen to you, make copies. So that way you at least have a copy for yourself. And speaking on this side of the table, send us your copies, don't send us your originals. But yes, that's a good, always make a copy of something. Yes?
So the do not call list, you're supposed to pay me.
She's asking about the do not call registry. I will be completely honest with you. I usually don't mention it, and the reason is because a lot of times people mumble rumble. The perk with the do not call registry, if you register with them and you are still getting all of these nuisance phone calls, it's a big red flag that someone is trying to scam you. The do not call registry applies to registered and legitimate businesses. So your Google account, it's expired. Your car warranty, it's expired. Unfortunately, the scammers don't really care if the FTC is going to find them or not. So just so you know, if you're on that and you're still getting all these phone calls, it's a big red flag that it's a scam. Something to kind of piggyback on that, because I know that like sometimes people get strange phone calls, or like they'll answer only if they come. You guys are 309, right? They'll answer if it's a 309 area code. What these scammers do is they'll download an app that masks the phone's actual phone number, and they'll plug in whatever 309 they think will work that day, or they might have somebody, Galesburg PD, or whatever. Let it go to your voicemail, and then you can always call Galesburg PD, or you can always call. I mean, and that's when you hear stories about like people that are getting calls from their own phone number. Like that's how that's happening. So I can't, again, with the voicemails, I can't stress enough. Let stuff go to your voicemail. I mean, they can't get your money and they can't get any kind of information. Like that's my big push. Are there any other questions?
When I get a phone call that I don't recognize, they don't recognize me. I know it.
Mm-hmm.
Did somebody work really?
Yeah, for those of you that couldn't hear, she said that if people don't leave a voicemail, she knows it's an automatic scam. And something I've heard that's kind of coming back around is that people are setting up like safe words with their family, even if it's with their children. That way when they answer, say your safe word. or otherwise no information gets exchanged. So that's something, I heard that's something that's coming back. Are there any other, yeah?
On the back of one of these forms, it says, mail outgoing bills at the post office. Don't put them in your home mailbox. If you live in a facility like I do, we have our own mail system delivery. Is it safe to mail them there?
If you're in like a residential building where you're putting mail into a slot in your building, that would be secure. It's where you're putting your stuff in a mailbox on the corner, or sometimes when you're putting your like bills in your own mailbox and you're lifting that flag, if somebody is that die hard into getting your information, they can look and see, they're like, oh hey, they've got something outgoing. I wonder if it's a check. So you should be safe. Touch base with your manager just to make sure. But usually when you're in a residential like apartment building type thing, and the like mail slots in the wall, kind of, is that where? Yeah, then it should be secure. Yes.
Now, we get a lot of information or advertisements from, say, LifeLock, where they say, you know, to lose your house, to lose your 401k, they can get your, if you don't have LifeLock. What is your opinion?
I will be straight and honest with you. I can't really give an opinion on LifeLock or any of the other. What I can tell you, if you decide to go with a credit monitoring service, one, make sure you know what you're paying for. Because some of them, they'll just monitor it. Well, when that happens, you need help after. So make sure you know what you're paying for. I know that we've had some issues with people that are asking, well, what about like title insurance? That's actually not a thing. Like, they'll tell you and they'll want you to pay for it, but it's not a thing. You can check with your local county, with Knox County, and make sure that your title is secure. But my opinion, my take, I can also tell you that you can check your credit for free on a quarterly basis. So it's personal preference. Some people don't feel like they want to take the time or bother. They're okay with having an entity do it for them. And if they have the financial means, that's what they want to do. So that's kind of, I hope I answered your question, or at least put some perspective on it. It's personal preference.
Well, I just was kind of wondering, how can they even do these types of things without a signature?
And that's, I just did some research on that. They will create phony documents, and that's how they get that ball rolling. Is either they have the phony documents, they either hook up with a realtor that they know, or somebody that they don't know that won't know to look for these phony documents, and that's how that ball is rolling. So touch base with your county
But
building.
then you have recourse to courts.
Yes, from what I've heard, and it's not an easy battle.
No.
But yeah, so touch base with your county building just to make sure. Say, hey, look, checking on my deed. Some of them have like ways that they can put in an alert to where if the deed's going to be transferred or if something's going to happen, they can alert you. So maybe touch base with Knox County and see if that's something that they have. Yes.
Don't you have to put your full social security number in order to access the social security
Yes.
credit check basis?
She asked, don't you have to give your social security number to get your credit report? Yes, you do.
That's what scared me off.
I can tell you the information that I gave you was background certified by attorneys. So the information, as long as you're following these directions, you're safe. But it's also one thing if you're initiating a phone call. So calling to get your credit report, yes, you need to give them your social security number. She mentioned she was doing it online. Again, that's personal preference. If you decide to go online, make sure you know where you're going. Because it just takes that one little dot that can lead you down a rabbit hole that you might not be comfortable going down. I know that whenever I did it, I called, and they might ask you a question because one of the security questions was who I had my first mortgage through. And in my head, I was like, that's 25 years ago. I don't know if we've moved 5 times. Yes, you're right. But they'll ask for your social security number because they need to know whose credit they're pulling.
So is my credit card keeps as my credit number?
Your credit score? Mm-hmm.
That's different from the top.
Absolutely. She mentioned that her credit card gives her her credit score. Is it a monthly basis or whatever? Okay, whenever she wants to go look at it. Your credit score and your credit report are similar but different. Your credit score just tells you where you're at, where your credit report will show you something in detail. So if you don't feel comfortable getting your credit report, you just want to make sure if your credit score starts dipping, that's a big red flag. But something I would still encourage, take a look at your credit report, make sure, because you never know. The things that people try and do, they may try and just like do something for $1 that you might not notice. Right. And then, oh, she didn't notice $1. I'll shoot for 5. Oh, 5, let's go higher. So just keep an eye on it. Yeah.
When you order medicine, say from an 800 number and it goes to a foreign country where someone answers the phone that you can't understand, I have that problem quite often. And here's a tip. Tell them you want to talk to someone in the United States. They will transfer you over, reluctantly sometimes. But I've learned that because otherwise I have no idea what they're saying. And I want to make sure that what I'm ordering is ordered and I don't get something else.
Okay. That was a really good tip. So yeah, that's good to know. Yes.
Doesn't the bank have your credit report?
Not necessarily. Somebody from the bank, I know they can look at your credit report.
We wouldn't keep it on file. We would pull it like you mentioned for if you're getting a mortgage loan or something like that. That's when we would pull it, but it wouldn't be something that's kept on file.
Yeah, she said that if you didn't hear, it's not something that they would keep on file, but that it's something that they would only pull if you were going to take out a mortgage or take out a loan from them. So, are there any other questions?
So if we want to see our credit report,
I encourage people to call, but there's also a website on here that you can go to. Just make sure that you're very careful when you're going online, that you know where you're going. Because like I said, it just takes that one little space or the one period that you didn't see that can lead you. I mean, one day I got a text from Apple, but it was app.le. And it just takes that one little dot. So just make sure you know where that you follow the directions. Yes.
okay, it says on here, so creating some information on the internet was secure site. How do you verify that it's a secure site?
She's asking if you're on the internet, how do you know if it's a website secure or not? If a website is secure, in the very front, you'll see a lock, and it looks exactly like a padlock. That means that the site is secure. Another thing is it'll say like HTTPS, and the S stands for secure. So that's something, the two things that you want to look for. Is there any other questions? I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen one without the other. Yeah, it's
got the lock. It's the S.
It should, yeah.
Sometimes get the HTTP sites without the S, but if you use the S and then it works, that's definitely.
Yeah, they should coincide. Are there any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna pass the ball.
Introduce Chief Idle.
Okay. Before he starts talking, I'll let y'all know I've got all kinds of pamphlets, flyers, and information. So when everybody wraps up, please feel free to come and grab some.
There we go. I think we're on now. All right. Thank you very much, Heather. You're going to be around here for a while. And I would just echo what Heather said. If you're looking for your credit report, don't type in a Google search box credit report. Use the exact way it's spelled on that handout itself. And that can make it a little bit more secure. But if you just do a Google search for credit report, you might end up with who knows where. So I think most of you recognize Chief Idle. I asked Chief Idle to come in and kind of give a take of what he's seen here in Galesburg, some of the scams. And like I said, as I refer to them, it's not actually a scam, it's just plain out robbery, is what it turns out to be. So Chief, share us.
Hello, everybody. As he said, I'm Chief Russ. I'm the police chief here in Galesburg. I'm going to hit on a few points. This very talented lady in the back here from the Attorney General's office pretty much hit everything on the head. So I don't really have a whole lot to add, except that we do see a lot of what we call identity theft and fraud, where money and goods are lost because people get tricked. So a couple of things that I would have to give to you as ideas first off is, if you get a phone call and someone's asking you for money or personal information, you don't know who you're talking to, do not give it to them, period. I don't care how convincing they sound or how important the issue is, don't do it. We have scammers calling people to tell them that they have family members that have been arrested and they need bond money, and if they don't bail them out, they're going to sit in jail. And people are sending money over the phone to bond their family members out. We don't call you for bond money. We aren't going to call you and tell you there's a warrant for your arrest and you need to send us money. And these kind of things are happening and people are being victimized. We're not going to call you and ask you for your social security number, your bank account number, or any personal information like that. If you get a phone call from the police or a bank or something like that and you're not sure who you're talking to, very politely tell them you will call them back. Look up the phone number for that entity and call them yourself, initiating that phone call. Especially the new thing that is this law enforcement scam. No officer has ever been happy if you say, I'm not sure who I'm talking to. I don't care that this is Galesburg Police, that she went through the apps that can spoof these things. It's perfectly fine to say, I'm going to look up the phone number and call you back. Call into the dispatch center and you'll hopefully have this person's name and ask for them. And if you then get the same person, you're probably okay. It's still okay if you're still not comfortable with saying, if you want to talk to me, come to my house. We have cars. We can do that. But the big thing is really make sure that all of these conversations are conversations that you've initiated. If people call you, the answer is no. To kind of give you a little bit of a story of something that happens to me quite often is my doctor's offices and my dentist's offices and my prescription, like stuff will call me sometimes telling me it's time to reorder. Okay, and then they need to verify my date of birth in order to reorder. I tell them, sorry, that's not how this works. You called me. I don't know who I'm talking to. I know, in reality, I know it's time to order. I'm 99% sure it's the right people, but I'm not going to give them my date of birth when they call me. Tell them, I'm going to hang up and thanks for the reminder, but I'll call back. Walgreens for prescriptions has called me before saying it's time to refill. Okay, yeah, could you refill it? Or I need to verify your date of birth. No, I'm not going to give you my date of birth. Thank you for the reminder to refill. And they're usually pretty polite about it, but just don't do it. Emails. Email scams and theft by email is rampant. If you get an email asking for your personal information, almost 100% of the time it's a scam. There are almost no legitimate reasons for someone to send you an email asking for personal information. Forget about asking you for money. The other big thing about the emails and the phone calls is a significant number of them originate from outside the country. So if you're the victim of that crime and you call us, we're going to do a police report for you to help you go through the steps to try to work through it. But unfortunately, the Galesburg Police Department does not have a plane to go to Nigeria and try to arrest the person, or China or India or whatever it is. So, I mean, I hate to say we're useless, but just being frank on those kind of crimes, we're kind of useless. The Attorney General has a little more power than we do when it comes to maybe being more effective, but once it gets outside of our area, we can do the police report for you to try to help you. But quite honestly, we oftentimes tell people to go to the Attorney General's website, fill out the forms that she's mentioned to you guys. So our ability to rectify things, I've actually gotten into arguments with scammers over the phone. We brought a nice lady into the station. The scammer actually called while we were sitting with her in the police station, and I got on the phone, and the guy basically told me to go pound sand. He's like, you don't even know where I am, and I guarantee you can't come get me, so forget you. He knew he was safe. But so personal information, money, those kind of things, never on a phone call initiated to you, never by email. Another topic I will hit on a little bit is scammers taking advantage of people on the internet via the web. Probably not as big of an issue for this group of people as it is maybe for some different groups, but they are getting people involved in video conversations and video situations that are embarrassing to those people, and then they're blackmailing them with that information, saying that you send me money or I'm going to blast out this personal conversation we had or whatever to the world and scamming people that way. So if you have a camera on your computer, please remember that hackers can activate that camera on your computer. So just keep in mind that that's something that you can be taken advantage of while you're on your computer. So be careful, what site you're visiting, who you're talking to, and those kind of things. So in addition to what she's already mentioned, that's really what I've got. She really did a great job of hitting everything. I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has for the police department. Yes?
What about the scammers on the gas?
Yeah, the skimmers on the pad that keep check your. Yeah, we have had those in town, and then those can happen. I would encourage you to pay attention when you're going. They've got to put a device over the top of the pad, so it is observable. But oftentimes they're really good at it. So just pay attention to the keypad and make sure everything looks legitimate there.
Were there some that's inside the gas station too? Or those small handheld?
If there were, I don't remember. The ones I remember were outside of the pumps. I don't remember it happening inside the store, but that doesn't mean it didn't.
What do they look like?
Well, it's a cover that goes over the outside of the pad, and what it does is it tracks the numbers you punch in. So it actually records the strip off your card and then tracks your PIN number, and then they use that information to access your account and get your funds.
So it's clear.
Yeah, they're usually metallic, but and go over the top. Or they could be black too, but they're made in a way that makes it look like if you're not paying attention, you don't realize there's been a device placed over the top.
I've always, whenever I use my card at the gas station, anymore, I try to remove, is it?
Pull on it, yeah,
Pull on
see
it.
if it comes off, yeah.
Right. Is that good?
Yeah,
Should we be doing that?
sure, I mean, usually they're not affixed, right, so they would come off. The other thing is if you have the ones that are just the touch card, I mean, then that's better. So as technology gets better, of course, the criminals are gonna get smarter too as the technology gets better as well, right? So it's a tit for tat going back and forth. But the skimmers is a problem, and we have had them in town. Any other questions today? Another thing I'll mention is, if at any time you have questions or problems, you're concerned about a phone call or an email or something that's going on, something that's making you uncomfortable, call us. We'll come out and talk to you. We're always happy to do that. Go over things with you and make sure that you're safe. So if there's ever a question, give us a holler. We're happy to help.
And if people are scammed, report it, right?
Absolutely.
Report it. I tell people kind of 3 things to remember. If you're scammed, report it. Second thing, report it to the bank. And third thing, then do a credit report to shore up all your accounts. And that way, everyone who needs to know will know what's going on. Okay, that's important. Banks, and because it's a robbery. So if somebody would steal your car, you'd call the police, right? So report that theft. We got one other guest to come up and talk, Trent Cox from F&M Bank, and he's going to share what he's seeing in local banking and some of the scams going on there, possibly a little bit even more in depth. And he's going to wing it, he said, but I know he's got a lot of great information for all of us of washing checks and some of the big things going on nationally. So, and local.
Hi there. Yeah, Dan saw me in the back. My name is Trent Cox. I'm the Vice President for F&M Bank. I was kind of listening in just on some of the things, and so I was just going to add a couple comments on some of the things I heard earlier. The brochure, we talked about the annual credit report. I mean, very helpful tool. You just want to make sure that you use that exact one, because you hear freeannualcreditreport.com and other things that are actually paid services. So we hear that a lot from clients. But this one is actually able to monitor the 3 credit bureaus. So it is nice because you can actually get them quarterly. The other thing I was going to mention is someone had mentioned about the credit card monitoring. And that is a kind of a way that things can be misconstrued, because not all like credit card companies report to all 3 credit bureaus at the same time. So some of your data can be somewhat misconstrued from what you're seeing on a Capital One credit card or something. It may only be pulling from one credit reporting monitoring. So that's why it's kind of nice just to be able to look at that. Or she recommended the freeze, which is fantastic because they have to call you, and if you come to the bank, we have to help call and get that turned back on. So that's a great service. So the other thing I was going to mention is the skimmers. So a lot of times too, I use an ATM that you trust, and most banks have to monitor their ATMs. So I mean, we go out there daily. You see us out there in the one here at Main Street in the little room inside there. So I mean, we check those to make sure. So I mean, if you're using an ATM in a dark alley, probably not the most safest, hasn't maybe been checked. So just common sense for that. But yeah, I've always hold on them as well if you're using one you're not familiar with, because they are like an attachment that's on them. So other than that, I was going to talk a little bit, some of it, and I missed a little bit because I was a little late. Just the ones that come in the mail. You receive this check for $3,578. We see those checks all the time. That's probably the biggest thing we see right now. But then the other thing with the checks also is, bringing those to the bank and wanting to cash them if you have available funds. Without the bank catching that it is hard to get back. So just, if you didn't sign up for the Publishers Clearinghouse, then you didn't win. So that's what I always ask. I didn't actually play it, the lottery, but I mean, somehow I won. Some of those are, I think, just like basic stuff, but the other ones is, just your checks. We were talking about the mail. That's become way more frequent, where they actually have your account information because they got it through the mail or some other check that you had out there. And as a bank, we just recommend, if you have online banking, you should be checking it on a regular basis, or at least matching up the statements. I'm guilty myself. I don't go through, my complete statement every time, but I'm online every day. So I check through the online, make sure everything is cleared. But prior, I used to go through my check register and watch all that. But that's, at least you're checking in some sort of way. And everybody mentioned, if you have a question, we don't mind. You can check with the bank. You can check on using these tools. But as long as you're doing something, not just letting it go. But yeah, there's all sorts of, we're seeing all sorts of different things right now. One of the more popular ones now is some business fraud, so which is really convenient. They're doing ACH fraud, payroll fraud, paying employees that didn't exist. So it's you really need to stay alert and stay on top of it. And I caught some of the ways. I love the annual credit report just to check, and usually I recommend that for people who are building credit as well. If they had fraud or they had bad credit history, they could use that to monitor their credit. So it's a great tool. Other than that, like I said, just be able to trusted sources. Everybody kind of mentioned that. So, any questions for me about bank perspective?
I bank that.
Well, thank you.
So, this is just safe to use my phone with my bank for studies.
Well, I'm not a tech person, but it depends on where you're at. So if you're using a public Wi-Fi, sometimes that can be a little dangerous just because you're not on a secure network. I wouldn't be checking my account balances at a giant public place where everyone has access to something. But I'm not a tech person, so just basically on your phone, if you're using it in your house, you're checking stuff, it's perfectly fine because you're on a secure network. But that's more of the problem with that. Otherwise, your mobile app should be okay unless you're using other Wi-Fis. So. But thank you for making it up to the bank, so I got my sales plug. So, any other questions for me?
Thank you. And I'm going to share just a couple of horror stories I've seen through my office and a few other comments to wrap up kind of. Who uses Facebook? Wow. So let me share a scare. Who uses Facebook? I'm sorry if you can't hear me. Turn the volume up on this. Facebook, thank you. You use Facebook. So let me share this with you. Here's a thought, food for thought. How many of you wish someone a happy birthday on their birthday using Facebook? In my business, the most important thing I can do to help you as a constituent is share your birthday in Springfield. When you call me and ask me, hey, I need help with this state agency, I'll ask your name, I'll ask your address, and I'll ask your birth date. Because that's how you're recorded in Springfield. So now look at this picture. On Facebook, we just said happy birthday to to Dan. Happy birthday, Dan. Well, we've just given 2 digits that someone who needs my information. We gave them my day of birth, the 30th, the month of July. They call me up and say, hey, Dan, we just wanted to follow up with some information from you, but to verify it's you, your birthday is 30 July, correct? Yes, it is. Could you tell me what year, just so we can match up our numbers? See what just happened? I'm gonna fall for it. I'm gonna say, well, 1959. And now they've got all the information they need on me. So be very cautious when you do the Facebook happy birthdays, because that's some important data you're sharing. The second thing is talked about from Trent, credit cards. Credit cards and gift cards that come in the mail to your address. Don't just throw them away, destroy them. I was in town here the other day and I walked out. I hate litter. Just so you know it, I hate litter. I was walking out to my car from an event and the garbage truck had just picked up some garbage and something fell out. Guess what it was? It was a credit card from somebody. Somebody had been mailed a credit card and they just threw it away. Cut that up, shred it, do something. Don't just throw it away. And a lot of personal information, don't just throw away. Facebook, email addresses. If you get an email and you wonder if it's a valid email or not, look up at the address line and verify the information up there. The USPS is they're not going to send you stuff in the email anyway. But if you get something that says, hey, this is USPS, we're sending you an email, we want to verify information, we're trying to deliver the package, you get them on your phone too. Look up at that email address. It's probably going to have a bunch of numbers, a bunch of symbols, and a bunch of other garbage. And that's how you verify whether emails are good or not. Same way with your cell phone. If you look up, if someone sends you a text message, you can verify whether it's good information or not by looking at who sent it to you. If it's a phone number you recognize or not. And as Heather talked about earlier, I'm kind of obligated to answer my phone if someone calls me in my job. And I get a phone call from 309-529. I think it's a Macomb number, and I answered it. I said, oh, somebody from Macomb called me, huh? Well, no, that's just the number we're using. Click. You know, that's how they got it. I actually got a phone call. My sister passed away, and 18 months later, I got a phone call, and her name popped up on my phone. I used some very colorful language with that person. Email, text. So, something, credit cards, a little bit more on credit cards. So I had a person come in my office. She had been scammed for $55,000. She got a call from somebody saying, hey, she said, somebody called her and said, hey, we deposited $55,000 in your bank account. It was a mistake. It wasn't meant to go into your account. So just to make it easier, you just wire us $55,000. And she did. Guess what? It disappeared. Why? Because it was a stolen credit card. Somebody deposited money in her account. That person who had that card stolen realized it was stolen. The bank that it was stolen from, or what business, was able to cancel that out of the account. So it disappeared out of her account because it was stolen to begin with. Plus, she sent them $55,000 just to settle up the bank account. And then they harassed her. She actually sent more money before she finally realized these people were not good people. These were professional criminals. And most likely, that money was going to be going to some terrorist organization across the sea. And as Heather kind of commented on, is I classify two types of criminals: the local unprofessionals, and then those professional worldwide. You know, as was mentioned earlier about, I had someone come into my office, people drove by, saw a tree down in the yard. They said, if you give us $100, we'll come back next week and clean that tree up if you give us another $300. Well, she never saw those people again. That money was going for beer money, okay? But you look at these other criminals, the worldwide criminals of $55,000 to $10,000, the hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's all going to terrorist organizations. A school south of here was held hostage. Somebody got into their computer system, not through the computer itself, but through their cell phone. The superintendents and principals all had cell phones to monitor the HVAC system, the heating and cooling in the school. Criminals came through that system and locked up all their school records and accounts. And they were being held hostage. I think the number was several $100,000 that if they would give these people, the criminals, the money, they would release it. Well, when the FBI got involved, a lot of other organizations got involved. The one inspector came, or the one detective said, these are honorable criminals. If you pay them, they will release your information. So they gave them the money, and their information was released. So they know they found 3 of them over in the Middle East. Talked about USPS, IRS, same thing. The IRS will not call you up and ask for information. Keep that in mind. Solar companies, that seems to be the big racket now. I don't know if anybody's been knocking on your doors about solar. Don't sign anything until you have the solar company verified, and you can verify it either by going to Illinois Shines, it's a website, or ask somebody else, ask neighbors. Because what's going on, some of these solar companies, and there are good ones out there, there are reputable ones, there are good reputable people that trim trees and clean them up in your yard, but there are some bad people. Some of these bad solar companies are filling out the information in front of you thinking you're going to receive the SREX or receive the money, when in fact they're going back to that company. As someone who lost $47,000 because of that. So keep that in mind. If someone knocks at your door, don't sign any documents. Verify it with a neighbor, verify it with someone else, because so many of these companies are rolling over and over and over. Today they may be Solar Bright. Tomorrow they may be Bright Solar, or they may be something else. But they've got your money, they've closed up their accounts, they're moving on to the next victims. So be very careful on the solar schemes that are going on now.
What was that website in for the Illinois Shine or for the solar?
Yeah, Illinois Shines, and from there you can look up a vendor list.
.com?
Yeah, Illinois Shines, I just looked it up. Just to verify it was the right one. Illinois Shines. IllinoisShines.com. It'll come up Illinois Shines and says, welcome to Illinois Shines. And make sure that's who you're getting into. Illinois Shines, yeah, .com. Yes, sir.
Recently, most people received a letter from District 205 about solar signing up. And does anybody know whether that is legitimate? I didn't do it.
District 205, the local school district, is asking residents to sign up for solar? Wow, no, I had not heard that. I'd like to see a copy of that letter, and I'll reach out and ask them. Yeah, I don't know why they would have a reason to do that. I don't understand why it would be their interest to have people sign up.
A number of people I know about.
Okay, yeah, if you could, if we get a copy to me, I'd appreciate it. And I'll reach out to the school.
Mine went away fast.
Have you heard anything about this?
I got one.
You got one?
Yeah.
Is it legit?
I never saw it up. It seemed so weird.
So on two, of course it would be. Of course it would be. Okay. Have you heard anything about it, Chief? Okay. I'll make a note. And the question on LifeLock, I can't go up here. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you what companies to use. But I had a meeting with a gentleman on a different topic. He's an investigator, detective on cybersecurity. He only does investigations on businesses with over $500 million in assets. And I asked him what type of protections he has for his personal self. He said, I signed up for LifeLock. So, but I'm not going to tell you to do that. I'm just saying that he is a detective in cybersecurity world, and he believes in LifeLock. Okay. So anyway, I guess I don't have anything else. Seamus, did you have anything to add?
No, thanks everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think all the work they put into baking and packaging, all these fresh sweets back there. Please help them because they don't want to carry it all out. They wanna eat it all, they don't wanna carry it all out, right? So, but we're gonna be around here a while. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much. Hopefully you got something out of this today, because I know I sure did, listening to your question. Yes, ma'am, we got one more question.
Facebook, there's a stimulus check for people. Is that a fraud too, thing that's coming out?
Yeah, I've not heard of any stimulus checks in the near future coming out, no. Yeah, so, okay, well, thank you, everybody, appreciate coming out today, thank you.